this. Oh my God. I couldn't have possibly had worse weather for a 5-litre V8 muscle car that is rear-wheel drive only, but here I am standing in the rain talking to you and telling you why you should care about this Mustang. The formula is old. There's a reason why people like BMW, Mercedes, Audi, and even Lexus recently have given up on putting a big naturally aspirated V8 inside a sporty coupe shape. Now, as an asterisk, yes, Lexus still makes the LC500, but that doesn't directly compete with this. That is something completely different, but it is still one of the last cars with a naturally aspirated V8 under the hood, and so is this. And so here's something you're just not gonna see in many cars moving forward, especially in sports coupes like this one. This is Ford's Coyote 5-litre V8, producing over 340 kilowatts, and it breathes better in the new Mustang thanks to these giant air intakes which have been installed up front to help it breathe and produce more power. And it looks like it's being restrained by this giant cross bracing here to help the front be more rigid through corners. Now, Ford recognizes that this doesn't really have any direct rivals if you are looking for a naturally aspirated V8 rear-wheel drive sports coupe like this, meaning this exact spec here is priced at over $105,000 drive away here in the state of New South Wales, here in Australia. And this is just for a regular Mustang GT Fastback. This is not a special edition. This is not a dark horse. This doesn't have parts from the Mustang GTD. This is just a regular V8 powered Mustang GT with some options on it. And you are looking into the 6-figure price tag now if you want this exact car as you see it. Now let's find out if spending over $105,000 on a Ford Mustang GT in 2025 is a good idea. So first of all, I'm going to go through the 3 things I really love about this car, and then I'm going to tell you the 3 things I don't particularly like about this car. And that should hopefully help you decide if you are going to spend 6 figures on a Mustang GT in 2025. And to be honest, that's a pretty good reason already. Now this is all that matters inside a Mustang, is how it drives. And this is reason number 1 why I think you should buy one. It's the 5-litre V8 and powertrain, and the fact that this is rear-wheel drive. This is a very special driving experience. You have a lot of induction sound. You have really good responsiveness from this motor now. I absolutely enjoy this Coyote motor at every speed limit. I love cruising around in it, and I love pushing it to the limit. This thing is so much fun to drive, and it's the whole reason why you would even consider buying a Mustang with a 5-litre V8. And that brings me on to reason number 2 why I really love driving this, and that's because this GT gets a bunch of performance upgrades. We have a limited slip differential in the rear. We have giant Brembo brakes which help with braking feel like this. Oh my gosh. And you just get this combined feel with the GT that helps make it obviously a comfortable cruiser thanks to that adjustable suspension, so we can have it nice and soft, or we can have it a bit more firmed up. But ultimately what we have here is something that actually handles quite well on the road, which I thoroughly enjoy throwing around on twisty sections of road. And then when you want to dial it all back, you totally can, but at least you have the performance upgrades and the hardware to help make this actually a really nice to drive Mustang. Now it's not quite as sharp as a Toyota Supra or a Nissan Nismo Z, but this still is plenty of fun to drive, and it is still very capable. And adding to all that, the 3rd reason why I think you should buy one is because it's really easy to live with. These Recaro seats aren't super stiff and they're not super tight. I feel very relaxed in here. I feel supported, and I also just love how this 10-speed automatic keeps the revs nice and low for when you're daily driving, so it's really easy to drive this thing nice and smooth. And yes, it's a bit stiff on the road, but that's sort of a given because you're driving a more sporty muscle car. But to be honest, it's really just a nice cruiser when you want it to be, and of course when you want to dial it all up, you have a sport mode, you have a drag strip mode, and this thing can become an absolute monster when you want it to. You have a slippery mode which allows you to get a bit more confidence driving around in this weather because it helps cut and mitigate power to the rear wheels when you're on slippery surfaces. Does it work perfectly? No, but at least it's something extra to help you avoid ending up on a cars and coffee crash compilation, which a lot of Mustangs usually do. And that brings me on to this 10-speed automatic. It is not my favorite transmission. It costs more to fit, and it is arguably the worst driving experience compared to the manual. I've only experienced the Mustang 5-litre V8 with the 6-speed manual, which has automatic rev matching, and it feels great to engage with, and you have clutch feel and everything. But when you drive the 10-speed automatic, you're disconnected from most of that. You have 10 gears to row through, so your fuel consumption will be a bit lower, but I just don't even like how laggy these paddles feel. They just do not feel that snappy at all when you're just driving around. It feels like a bit of a disconnect, and I rarely use the paddles for that reason. I really don't like how they feel. Now, as much as I love this screen here for all the features it has, I also really don't like it for some of the features that it hides. Now, the climate controls, for example, if you want to change things like fan speed, your temperature, or anything like that, you have to touch this screen, and I especially hate how you have to go through the screen and go through a menu, wait for it to load, to turn on the recirculating air. And finally, there is a massive price to pay for having this 5-litre V8 under the hood, and that is the fuel consumption. Now, if you drive it like this all the time, you're going to be visiting the fuel pump very frequently. Now, I've driven this about 247 kilometers now, which is about 8 hours of driving, and that's daily driving, and I've used about 3/4 of a tank. Compare that to the plug-in hybrid Ford Ranger I had, that was using about 8 litres per 100 kilometers. This is using around 14 litres per 100 kilometers, or 13.9 to be exact. Now, a lot of you might be screaming at me through the screens and comments saying, that's the price to pay for driving around in a V8. Well, I can tell you, we're living in 2025, and there are measures that don't involve turbocharging and electrification to help reduce your fuel consumption. Ford's implemented one of them, a 10-speed automatic transmission, and it definitely helps with the fuel consumption. But another thing I wish they did in this car was cylinder deactivation. Now, brands like Audi do it when they turn their V8 into a V4 for when you're cruising around to try and reduce a bit more fuel consumption. And it's not about being an eco-warrior or anything like that. It simply comes down to the fact that this thing would cost so much to run that it would actually turn me off wanting to buy one. I really would love to own and live with one of these cars, but the fact that this thing just drinks fuel like nothing else for its size makes it not that appealing for me when I want to live with it day to day. For a weekend or driving this for a week, absolutely. I don't care what it costs to drive this thing. It is so fun to experience. And if you're someone who thinks that this is a priceless experience and you're happy to pay any amount of money to run this thing, well, go ahead, buy one. But you should know that if you are conscious about the cost of fuel, this is going to cost you a lot of money to run. But if you're looking for a V8 muscle car in 2025, this is your only option. And the price to pay is over $105,000 drive away for this car here. And so if you are looking to buy one of these, you have my full endorsement. It's such a pleasure to drive and live with, but you do need a small oil refinery to fuel this thing. But I want to hear from you guys down in the comments. Would you spend over $105,000 on a car like this? Let me know.